Oh, Canada, our home and native land. Welcome back. Time to travel north. We're headed to our friendly neighbor to the north, Canada. And again, if you're familiar with physical features in the United States, that will help you with physical features in Canada. If you are familiar with the history of the United States, that will also help you out with the history of Canada. Government, we'll look at the similarities and differences between how our government is set up in the United States and government in Canada. And ultimately, again, we've got to appreciate our friendly neighbor to the north, Canada. Don't make fun of Canadians because we have a lot in common with Canadians. So if we're making fun of Canadians, we're making fun of ourselves. July 1st, Canada Day. They celebrate Canada Day in many of the similar ways that we celebrate the 4th of July in the United States. So hopefully by July 1st, July 4th, we can all celebrate together. Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all thy sons command. Okay, more similarities between us and Canada. Canada has a lot of territory, vast size. Of course, they have more than the United States. Cold climate. Yeah, we know the farther north we go in the United States, it gets colder. And Canada gets even colder the farther north they go. So probably why most Canadians decide they want to live close to the border of the United States and Canada. It might finally be springtime there. If you look at the history, the settling, colonizing, again, more similarities between us and Canada. We can go all the way back to migrants from Asia moving into North America thousands of years ago. Some of those early migrants remained, and they are the Inuit population, the North American Indian population that does live in some of the colder northern latitudes of Canada. The territory of Nunavut is a Inuit created territory, Inuit population. Moving forward in Canadian history, French British colonization. Much like the French and the British colonized in today's United States, the French and the British also colonized Canada. And the fur trade was very popular. Fishing industry, very lucrative. And conflicts over land, of course, eventually lead into the French and Indian War. And the French and Indian War is not only in the US colonies, but it's also fought in portions of Canada. We know the name is odd because the English, British win the French and Indian War. And with the English and their Indian allies winning the French and Indian War, they get the territory. But a large French population is going to remain in Canada. Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love and all thy sons command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north strong and free. So in the late 1700s in the United States, we're fighting our revolution so we can get our independence from the British, but the British will remain in charge in Canada. And there are conflicts between the French population in Canada and the English population in Canada. And the French population, largely Roman Catholic, the English population, largely Protestant. And to try to bring some order to Canada and unify. In 1791, the British are going to create two provinces, and two provinces that we're familiar with today. Upper Canada we know of as Ontario, and Lower Canada we know of today as Quebec. Upper Canada is largely the English population, the Protestant population, whereas Lower Canada and Quebec dominated by the French-speaking Catholic population of Canada. And with these two provinces, and provinces are simply political divisions. We call our political divisions states in the United States, and Canada has provinces. With these provinces, we also see cities that, of course, are still famous in Canada today. Quebec City, Montreal. If you want to see some French culture and you can't make it to France, you can travel north someday to Quebec City and Montreal. Toronto, Ontario, largest city in Canada today. And hopefully the Blue Jays will get to play some baseball in Toronto again soon. Even with these two provinces being created, we don't see an end to the conflicts. So the British government will try again, creating the Dominion of Canada, a loose confederation of provinces, territories within Canada. And a confederate form of government simply gives more power to its individual members or the provinces. We tried this with the Articles of Confederation when we were creating our United States. It just didn't work out for us. Eventually, this confederation in the Dominion is going to grow from the Atlantic coast all the way to the Pacific coast. And we'll add more provinces, British Columbia, Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba joining in the west, and Newfoundland in the east will be the last Canadian province to join. Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love and all thy sons command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north, strong and free. From far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Bum, 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 bum. All right, so now that we have expanded Canada across the continent from Atlantic to Pacific, if we want to develop Canada, we have to connect Canada, and that will certainly be a challenge. So successful settlement depends on good transportation, much like the United States, more connections. We need roads, we need canals, we need railroads to link the eastern part of Canada to the western part of Canada. So in the Great Lakes area, we can use rivers, canals, St. Lawrence River. We have lots of water access in the Great Lakes, St. Lawrence River Valley. But to connect our coast, we need a railroad. So the Transcontinental Railroad, finished not too long after our US Transcontinental Railroad, will link the western portion of Canada in Vancouver all the way to the Great Lakes, eastern portion of Canada, and Montreal. So once we've connected the east and the west, we're going to see more people move to the western portions of Canada. And another reason to move west in Canada, gold discoveries in the western portion of Canada. Again, more connections with the history of the United States. With gold discoveries, new railroads are going to be constructed, and with new railroads, you're going to see towns in the western portion of Canada. And with railroads, towns, discoveries, more people moving into Canada. So immigration is a theme that is important to the settlement of Canada, much like the history of the United States. Canada also lucky to have immigration as a part of its history. For most of Canada's history, they focused on living in rural areas and they were farmers. But as resources and more people moved to Canada, Canada transitioned from being rural and farming to being urban and more industrial. And when you have manufacturing and industry, you also have lots of services that are provided in the cities. Most of our, Canada's urban areas, they're pretty close to us. Most of Canada's cities are pretty close to the US border. And again, probably not because they just want to be close to us, but probably because most of the people in Canada choose to live in a warmer climate. And if you want a warmer climate, you got to stay south. So that means close to the US border. Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love, and all thy sons come in. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, a true north, strong and free. From far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. The government of Canada, yes, there are some things we have in common, but there are also some differences between US government and Canadian government. First of all, our history as an independent United States is longer. Canada got independence from the British in 1931, so their independent history is a little bit shorter. They also have a parliamentary form of government, so their executive branch and their legislative branch are together, whereas we have separate branches of government in the United States. The Canadian executive leader is the Prime Minister. Our executive leader in the United States is our president. And the current Prime Minister of Canada is Justin Trudeau. And he's so young. Oh, just a baby. His birthday is December 24th, 1971, which makes me a week older than the Canadian Prime Minister. So yes, he's super young. Even though Canada has a Prime Minister leading their government, they still have allegiance to the British monarch, Queen Elizabeth II. Still their symbolic leader. And while Justin Trudeau is very young, Queen Elizabeth II, she just celebrated her 94th birthday. She's been the queen since Harry Truman was our president. So it's not her first rodeo as the British monarch. Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love, and all thy sons come in with glowing hearts. We see thee rise, the true, north, strong, and free. From far and wide, oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee. So if you know even a little bit about Canada, you know that the sport of hockey is very important to Canadians. And the Humboldt Broncos, a hockey team from Saskatchewan, a province in Canada, they suffered a tremendous tragedy. It's just been a little over 2 years ago. And their tragedy inspired people from throughout Canada, the United States, and the world to help out. So while the story of this hockey team is sad, it is also inspiring. So if you get a chance, look up the Humboldt Broncos and honor them by remembering them. Next week, we'll take a look at more of Canada. You don't have to worry about taking notes. There's no notebook check for the fourth quarter. But what you can do is continue to wash your hands and social distance and stay safe so we can all be together again. Bye.